go.
I think we are, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Good morning. The Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City proceedings will begin. The board is now in session. If you're in possession of any type of electronic device, please place said device on the off or silent mode during proceedings. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, preliminary matter on the AM docket, case number 5407 York Road, Blase Lounge and Liquors, LLC, trading as Blase Lounge and Liquors. This is a request to transfer ownership. This matter has been postponed, and all interested parties will be notified as to the new date and time. Call the first case on the AM docket, Mark McLaughlin and Archibald Watkins, Old Line Spirits, LLC, trading as Old Line Spirits, 4201 East Pratt Street. This is a Class D beer, wine, and liquor license, an application for a new Class D beer, wine, and liquor license under the provisions of Alcoholic Beverages Article 12-1604 D1-2. Please come forward.
Good morning, everybody. The Liquor Board is convened. Just for the sake of avoiding confusion, if there's anyone who is having a hearing before us today who wishes to present any kind of documentary evidence, I just ask that you hand it to Ms. Russell first so that she can mark it in, and then she will provide it to the Commissioner so that we can review it. Would those who are going to testify please raise their right hands, please?
You swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Who's who?
Good morning. I'm Mark McLaughlin.
Okay.
Arch Watkins.
Gentlemen, I have a question for you. When I did my conflict check at my law firm, White for Taylor Preston, I saw that Old Line Spirits, LLC may have been represented by one of our lawyers. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that could pose a potential conflict for me unless you are willing to waive it. Are you willing to have me sit on this hearing?
Correct. We are willing to waive it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. I don't know anything about you, but I saw that one of our lawyers did. Okay. So this is an application for a new Class D license. Do you want to tell us about the operation?
Yes. So good morning. Thanks for having us here. As you know, I'm Mark McLaughlin. This is my business partner, Arch Watkins. We're the majority owners and operators of Old Line Spirits here in Baltimore. We're a functioning distillery in the Highlandtown neighborhood, occupy a 25,000 square foot warehouse that was formerly vacant in a largely industrial area. As far as the application, as you know, we're applying for a new Class D license in conjunction with a Class 9 limited distillery license, and also in conjunction with the recent changes to the Alcoholic Beverages Code 12-604. And we are a business in good standing with federal, state, and local regulatory agencies. As far as the need for this license, we view it from two perspectives. One is from our business need and one from a community perspective. For the business, under our Class 1 distillery license that we currently hold and operate under, we are limited pretty severely with regard to what we can offer to visitors. So it's tours, very, very small tastings, and then potentially bottle sales to go if they choose to buy some. What that does is it gives a good place for people to come visit, but there's not a lot of return business. So it's become a challenge for us getting repeat customers to come into the building, which is critical to us generating cash as a young business and growing an industrial operation. What we aim to do is put in a tavern which will supplement the experience of coming to visit us in a way that we think will be very meaningful both for us and for the visitors. As far as the community need, we operate in an economically depressed part of the city. What we are currently doing and hope to continue to do is provide skilled manufacturing jobs and other jobs associated with the distillery. We also, you guys are probably aware that craft breweries, craft distilleries are key to revitalization in a lot of neighborhoods in many cities throughout the country. They're an anchor point. They're a place for people to come, very much like a coffee shop in some ways, to come congregate, community events, and also, of course, have a drink. We have full support of the Highlandtown Community Association as well as our state and local representatives. I'd like to reference the letters of support from the HCA and also from our District 46 Legislative Assembly members, and also one that just came in, I believe, a few minutes ago from Councilman Brandon Scott.
They've all been received.
Great, thank you. As far as the effect on other license holders, there are no other liquor licenses within 2 blocks in any direction of Old Line Spirits. The nearest premises are lower-end price offerings at their establishments. And if you reference our menu, which I believe is in your paperwork, you'll see that we're offering a much higher price point, $10, $12 cocktails, as opposed to more of a $2 to $3, $4 beer at the locations that are a few blocks away from us. We don't foresee any interference with their business.
You won't see Commissioner Greenfield.
I missed the last point. What
He
was
says his drinks are expensive.
Yeah, I guess I did say that. But the point being that we don't see any interference with the other, liquor licenses in the vicinity. And as far as uniqueness, this will be the only distillery directly offering cocktails in the city of Baltimore as of this date. So in addition to being a place to congregate, have a drink and whatnot, we also view it as an educational experience. If people can come in, they can see the facility in which the products are being made, and they can also then, we have a very highly trained staff of bartenders, cocktail makers, who can then educate them further on how to use that cocktail or that product at home. The tavern staff have all been handpicked for this reason. And to close, I suppose, for community effects, we don't anticipate any negative effects on the health, safety, or general welfare of the neighborhood population. With that, I'll close and request that the board approve the issuance of our new Class E license.
So you must have left Boston a while ago, because I don't detect any.
Yes, sir. In 1997, college, and then the Navy, and then
You managed to get rid of the accent.
it sneaks out.
Are you still a Red Sox fan?
No comment. Plead the fifth.
So I think they're coming here, or we're going there soon.
It's today. I think the series opens up.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So you and Mr. Watkins run this operation together?
Yes, sir.
And how many people do you employ?
Including, there's 4 employees, including the 2 owner employees. There's 2 additional employees, 1 in production, 1 as a bar director, and we have a number of 1099 employees that we use part-time.
And you all have been there full-time for what period?
4 years.
Yeah.
Arch and I have.
Okay. Do the commissioners have questions?
none?
Just can you, this is obviously a little bit of an expansion of your current business, which I think is a good thing, right? So just talk through, if you could, now that you're going to be serving, assuming we approve, what additional, at a greater level, obviously, what additional precautions will you be taking from a community standpoint? And thank you for investing in a property that needed it. But what, parking, the sort of regular community issues we might find. I know it's not directly in, but you understand?
Sure, of course. We'll take that a couple of different ways. As far as public safety for visitation, Arch and I have completed our alcohol awareness training. All our staff will have that as well. And we're also hiring trained bar staff. No one's new to this, so they've all worked in reputable establishments in Baltimore City a number of times. So as far as just serving the public in that safety perspective, we feel pretty confident we've taken the precautions there. Parking, there's plenty of street parking right now. There's 2 businesses that are neighbors, both of whom are aware of our plans and are supportive. And they operate pretty much 9 to 4 p.m. And our hours as a tavern will be 5 until midnight to 1 a.m. At the latest, per the license. And then also on weekends, and they don't operate then. So we're entirely deconflicted from our neighbor businesses. So there's plenty of parking there. We've invested a lot of time and effort to improving the neighborhood as well. We worked closely with Councilman Scott, and he helped us work with the city to get a previously deteriorated road repaved, which made everybody in the neighborhood happy. And then actually Arch and I were just discussing yesterday, we're putting in new lighting around the building too. It's already somewhat well lit, but we'd like to be better lit just for general coming and going for people. So in general, those are the high level things we're doing.
Great stuff. And just one last comment is, if you haven't, work and engage with the Highlandtown Community organizations, because they're engaged, they're active, and they're going to want to know that you're doing good things. So
Absolutely, yeah, we have a very good rapport. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Anything further?
No, sir.
All right, on the basis then of the materials contained in the application, the legislative authorization, the letters of support, and the other materials provided, as well as the testimony here presented this morning, I would vote to approve the application.
I concur.
I concur as well. Good luck.
Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Are you opening up your business plan? I'm sorry? Your business plan, are you going to offer it into the record? You didn't give me a copy earlier. That's okay. I'd like to call exhibits for the record. Applicant Exhibit 1, business package. Board Exhibit 1, letter of support from Councilman Brandon Scott. Thank you.
Rodrigo Terez and Gregory Brown RR Taqueria, 30 Light Street LLC, trading as R&R Taqueria, 30 Light Street, Suite 002. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, an application for a new Class B beer, wine, and liquor restaurant license. Please come forward.
Counsel?
Thank you. Stephen W. Fogelman on behalf of Rodrigo Albaran Torres.
Good morning. Mr. Torres, would you raise your right hand, please?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Mr. Fogelman, this is a new restaurant with live entertainment?
Yes, it is. Thank you. Mr. Albaran Torres, I can call you Mr. Torres, right? Yes. Okay. Mr. Torres moved to this country when he was 10 years old. He worked at a restaurant in order to save money for flight school, went on to become a commercial pilot. At some point, the industry got tougher, found himself laid off, and walked into an opportunity to open up a small Mexican restaurant attached to a gas station in Howard County. Turned out to be immensely successful. He got written up in the Wall Street Journal about it a year later, was able to afford to buy a property next to that gas station where he has an extremely popular restaurant there today in Elkridge. He has been given good reviews for his restaurants by the Washington Post. He's been featured on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, Washingtonian Magazine, Ethnic Dining Guide, and HOCO 360. He's known as Chef Rod in the community, and Chef Rod, as I say, he expanded to Baltimore County in 2011. It's two very successful restaurants, but he's always wanted to own a restaurant in the city of Baltimore. So he found his perfect spot, and he's putting pretty much life savings into it. I've already previously marked the exhibit with the Assistant Executive Secretary. I'd like to provide courtesy copies to the commissioners at this time.
That's fine. Actually, I have the original here, so
Take these? Just a courtesy. Courtesy copy, okay.
let me give this back to Steve. Thank you.
Okay, so R&R is moving into the space at 30 Light Street, leasing from COPT Development and Construction. The first page of the packet will show you a letter from COPT's Senior Project Manager downtown showing, demonstrating $626,732 in physical build-out dollars. Beyond those papers, you'll find about 20-some pages of equipment, fixtures that will be used in the restaurant. So there finally, I just got it this morning, there's a POS, a point of sale estimate, which comes in at $15,749. So there's three documents here with numbers on it. I'm sorry I didn't break it down for you, but the grand total is $793,000, $898.49.
This is, how far down Light Street? What's the cross street?
Charles and Lombard,
Oh, okay.
right there, right in the corner.
And then finally, in the packet, you will find Mr. Torres's breakfast and lunch menu from the Perry Hall and Elkridge location. Mr. Albaran Torres would like to have occasional mariachi music. He plans to be open till 10 p.m. on weeknights and as late as midnight on weekends. Despite all that, he doesn't expect alcohol sales to exceed 15 to 20% of his receipts at any time. And in fact, he expects to have about 99% food to alcohol sales ratio by breakfast and lunch, and obviously that figure goes up a little more in the evening.
Well, Mr. Torres, you got out of the pilot business just before they started sucking them out of the window. So, good move.
No, I'm still flying, yeah.
Okay.
I'm still current,
But, so how many people will be employed at R&R?
And about 25 employees.
Okay. And are these employees are already with you, or you're going to be hiring new people?
New people, and some of them are with me.
So how many places are you operating now?
3, well, this will be the third one.
Uh-huh.
This is the first one with a liquor license, I might add.
Oh, okay. So you're a busy man.
Oh, yeah, very busy.
I mean, it's hard enough to run one restaurant.
Yeah, 4 kids and, yeah. So.
Okay. And have you been certified, alcohol certified?
No, he will be within the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sure Mr. Fogelman has told you, but the way that licensees get in trouble with us primarily involve things like carding people and being careful about minor sales, not purchasing your inventory from the right people, from hours of operation, when the mariachi music gets too loud and the neighbors complain, and things like that. Also, any kinds of security lapses that might occur if you're serving alcohol. So if you'll need to be mindful of those things. But the commissioners may have some questions for you.
How's parking down there for your restaurant?
Great. Above us is actually a parking lot. So the bottom part's retail.
Your
It's
counsel
10
was more or less bragging on your food. He said your liquor would be 1% and the food would be 99%. Is that good?
It's very, very good. One of the best. We actually been featured on the Food Network, Top 5. It's called the show Top 5. And we actually won number 2 in the nation for Mexican food.
And when we walked into City Hall today, some gentleman was downstairs waiting for the concert, and he said, "You Chef Rod from Jessup?" And so he's pretty well known. So I look forward to seeing him here in
I
Baltimore.
think you've been on TV.
Yes, a couple times.
And have you met, what's that, Guy Fieri?
Yeah, it was Guy Fieri. I got a chance to record with Guy Fieri and Joe Theismann. Yeah, they were actually on one of the episodes with me, so it was great.
Excellent.
So is his hair real?
Yeah, it's real, and he's nice. Just the way he's on TV is the way he is out of
About
TV.
Guy Fieri. I mean, we know
That's Guy Fieri. That's him. Yeah. Joe Theismann. Really nice guy. Yeah.
But this project is right downtown, right?
Yes.
So it's a little bit different than some of the things we typically see with some respect. And so, and it's part of, as Mr. Fogelman mentioned, it's part of a larger COPT project. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
They're actually they actually go eat at R&R over in Columbia. Their offices are very close, so they know me. And as soon as this thing opened, I got a call from the vice president, and they made me at his office. He was like, "Rod, we want you to come over here."
Right.
So it was really nice of them.
And just for the record, how many seats will you have? Not bar seats.
Yeah, we're about 85.
And how many seats will be at the bar? Tell them how big your actual bar is.
Our bar's going to be 7 to 8 stools.
Okay. Thank you.
That's a busy district. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, on the basis then of the materials contained in the application, the exhibits that have been received today, which includes all the materials Mr. Fogelman gave us, as well as a letter from the downtown Baltimore organization, partnership, and the testimony received, I would vote to approve the application.
I concur.
I, too, would vote to approve the application and obviously met the requirements by the seating capacity and the new investment. So with that, best of luck.
Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Nice
Thank
meeting
you,
you.
Commissioners. Always a pleasure. Take care.
Mr. Fogelman. Like all exhibits for the record, Board Exhibit 1, letter of support from Downtown Partnership. Applicant Exhibit 1, business plan. Thank you.
Sadish Dahl and George Greason Sr., 6200 Rice Inc., trading as Joe's Place, 6200 Rice Town Road. This is a Class BD7, a beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership, requesting live entertainment. Please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I apologize, my client has a weather delay, that's why she's not here yet.
You want
so
to hear the other things and call you back?
If you don't mind, I
Okay.
appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Mr. Page, let's take the other cases.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Moving to number 5 on the AM docket. Mishon Anthony, Patricia Holt, and Damon Ward, New Page Ventures, Inc., trading as New Duffy's Restaurant and Lounge, 3436-38 Frederick Avenue. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, a request for hardship extension under Article 12-2202. Please come forward.
Would you raise your right hand, please, ma'am?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Are you Patricia Hoyt, ma'am?
yes,
Did I say your name correctly?
yes.
Okay. So you've written a letter to us and asked for a hardship extension, saying that the property's been sold and you're in the process of selling the license. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So do you have any idea when that will be completed?
Well, I needed to get through this process before I could sign over agreement with the gentleman, and then we'll proceed.
You think in the next 90 days, 60
Yes.
days?
Yes,
Okay. And you're selling this, did you operate this before?
yes, I did.
Okay, for how long?
16 years.
Okay, and then you decided that it was time?
Well, my body decided it was time.
I understand.
Yes,
It is hard work.
yes.
Okay. The commissioners have questions?
None.
Ms. Hoyt, the only question maybe it's, well, never mind. I don't have any questions.
Okay. Sure.
I'm positive.
Okay. Anything further from you, ma'am?
No, well, there is one thing, and it's just a general comment. Since I've closed, I've been confronted by people who complain that there's really no place to go. So that's another reason why I'm trying to make sure that
You mean the neighborhood people would like to continue to come
people
there?
all over, you know. And I'd like to make sure that, you know, we continue to have some place where seniors or semi-seniors can congregate and enjoy one another.
So I guess you don't have loud music.
Not too, I don't have rap music.
Mariachi?
We do Caribbean.
Do you? That's good. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. On the basis then of the materials contained in the request for the hardship extension, including the letter, the testimony from Ms. Hoyt this morning, I'd vote to approve the extension.
I also agree to approve the extension.
I vote to approve as well.
Good luck, ma'am. Hope you can sell it.
Oh, me too. Thank you.
No exhibits for the record. Yeah.
Matthew Smith, Bagby's Bistro LLC, trading as Bagsby's Pizza Company and 1010 1006-10 Fleet Street. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license, a request to reopen after 90 days. Please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. Commissioner and the rest of the board. This is Andrew O'Connell on behalf of Bagby Bistro LLC, as well as Tagliata Elk Room LLC. Mr. Smith, Matthew Smith that is also having a bit of a weather delay. He is on his way. I believe he's about 5 minutes out.
Well, maybe we can deal with you. And this gentleman is?
This is Alex Smith. This
Oh, okay.
petition is a little bit different than perhaps the
Before
board.
you go, can I swear him? Would you raise your right hand, please?
You swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
We tend to slide into commentary, and I have to have it all
Oh,
on the
sure,
record.
absolutely.
Okay, so Mr. O'Connell, what were you telling us?
As I said, Matthew Smith is on his way, and obviously we've had a
If we
couple.
need him, we'll wait, but why don't you go ahead?
Okay, great, because Alex Smith actually is an interested party in this. This is a petition to reopen a Class B liquor license. Bagby Bistro LLC did business as Bagby Pizza. That operation closed, I believe it was on or about January 1, 2018. More than 90 days have passed. They are petitioning to reopen the liquor license to allow Tagliata Elk Room, who is in negotiations with the landlord to occupy, the negotiations have finished, they are occupying that former space to open a new endeavor, which is going to be called Italian Disco. The
Couldn't be more perfect for our chairman. He was just commenting, by the way, Mr. O'Connell, this morning that he can't find a good Italian disco.
And I still have my John Travolta outfit, so I'll be looking forward to that.
We are almost there. To really cut to the chase is that my client, Tagliata Elk Room, would like to open this Friday and be able to utilize a reopened Class B liquor license held by Bagby Bistro. Until such time as that liquor license is granted, which they are, I believe their hearing is scheduled for May 24 before this body.
To expand the Tagliata Elk Room liquor license into the Italian Disco space because they're all in the same building. Yeah.
So this request is to extend the Elk Room license?
No, that's actually a
That's
separate
separate,
request
okay.
that's coming down the
This
pike.
is
This is
to reopen the Bagby license.
right, to allow them to basically open next weekend. And
Okay.
it-
That would be this Friday, yeah,
Yeah, you
hopefully.
said Friday, so I said it's tomorrow,
To
right?
try, Yes, sir. To try and get open before Preakness if we can.
I understand. Okay, the commissioners have questions?
I can't think of a good one. So no.
Okay, thank you. All right, then, on the basis then of the letter that was presented to the board as well as the other materials, the proffers from council and the testimony received, I'd vote to approve the request to reopen.
I concur.
I agree.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you.
No exhibits for the record.
Mr. Harvey, are these your folks?
This is easy so far.
Mr.
Sadish Dahl and George Greason Sr., 6200 Rice Inc., trading as Joe's Place, 6200 Rice Town Road. This is a Class BD7 beer, wine, and liquor license, an application to transfer ownership, requesting live entertainment. Please come forward.
Once again, good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. To my right is Ms. Dahl. Are you going to be sworn?
Yeah, Sudesh Dhal.
Okay,
My
yeah.
husband name is Sudesh Dhal.
Mr. Harvey, you want to give your name for the record?
Okay, Sean Harvey, 309 South Conklin Street, Baltimore, 212244. Ms. Dahl.
Ask both of you to raise your right hands, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay, Mr. Harvey, this is an application to transfer, right?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Dahl is actually currently running the business as a personal representative of the estate of her late husband. Her husband took over this business in May of 2016, and he passed away in January of 2017. And a substitute application was then submitted so that she could operate as the personal representative of the estate of her late husband. Included with the application, I included the first and final administration account of that estate, which essentially distributed the estate to Ms. Dahl and to her two sons, and the sons have then assigned their interest in this stock in this corporation to their mother. So she will be a 95% shareholder, which was the exact amount of shares of stock that her husband once held. This is also a request for a live entertainment, Mr. Chairman, and also included in the application was a certificate of occupancy, which was issued in October, which authorized the use of a DJ and karaoke for live entertainment. And so we're requesting that be part of the license as well.
But just so I'm clear on this, so it's her husband's shares that are being transferred to her?
That's correct.
Okay, and did Mr. Greason always own 5% of it? Or
Yes, there's no change in that.
as to Mr.
He's
Greason?
actually the resident.
Okay, and what kind of live entertainment are we talking about?
Karaoke and DJ, is that correct? Okay. And I also have a letter of support from the Glen Neighborhood Improvement Association, not only in support of the transfer to Ms. Dahl, but also to the addition of live entertainment. Offer this exhibit.
Which, Ricerstown Road, which improvement association?
It's called the Glen Neighborhood Improvement Association, Inc.
And is that the local neighborhood association?
Yes, it is, and it's from Betty Cherniak, who's the president.
This man spoke, and I don't have his name. It's not George Greason Sr.
No.
Give me your name, please.
My name is Sumit Dhal.
Can you spell it, please?
It's SUMIT, T as in Tom.
Back off, the microphone is just distorted in my headphones.
Okay. S as in Sam, U as in umbrella, M as in Mary, I as in India, and T as in Tom. And same last name, D as in David, H as in Henry, A as in Apple, L as in Larry, L as in Larry.
So you're one of her sons?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Dahl has been alcohol awareness trained in conjunction with her current operation of this business. They have 3 employees. Ms. Dahl is a full-time operator. She'll be there at least 40 hours per week. We ask that the board consider not only the transfer to Ms. Dahl, but also the addition of live entertainment.
Okay, and are her sons going to work in the,
Well, one son is in India.
oh, so I guess he's not going to be working there.
No, no. As a matter of fact, if you looked at the assignments that I submitted as part of the application, one of them was notarized in India. But this other son, Mr. Sumit Dal, actually owns another tavern, so he
Oh,
won't be
okay.
part of this
All right.
operation.
Okay, so are you going to be the sole person running it, Ms. Dahl? And you have other people helping you?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's 3 employees.
okay. All right, do the commissioners have questions?
I do. Green Oak Improvement Association.
Glen Oak.
Glen neighborhood.
Glen Neighborhood, I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought I saw the, oh, I see. Now I see it, Glen.
It's on Park Heights Avenue.
I know it's above Northern Parkway, maybe about 4 blocks above Northern Parkway. Yeah. All right, I'm good.
Any questions?
Okay, anything further, Mr.
Nothing further.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. On the basis then of the materials contained in the application, the exhibit received today from the Glen Neighborhood Improvement Association, the proffers from council and testimony received, I would vote to approve the transfer as well as the addition of live entertainment.
I concur.
I concur with the approval of the transfer and for authorizing live entertainment.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
I'd like to call exhibits for the record. Licensee exhibit, I'm sorry, applicant exhibit 1, letter of support, Glen Neighborhood Association, dated May 10th, 2018. Thank you. Next to you down here.
Is that our morning session, Mr. Page?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. The board is in recess until 1 p.m.
Thank you. So I want you guys to note. Mr. Page, we ready?
I think we are, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. Now begins the PM docket of the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City. The board is now in session. If you're in possession of any type of electronic device, please place said device on the off or silent mode during proceedings. Yuzo Nwasi and Obafu Uwante, Yuzo LLC, trading as Goodfellas Lounge, 4919 Bel Air Road. This is a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license here for protester renewal. Please come forward.
Counsel?
For the record, Melvin J. Kadensky, 320 North Charles Street.
Good afternoon. Would anyone who has any intention of speaking during these proceedings, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn. If you don't do it now, you're not going to speak, so.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay. So before we begin, let me ask this question. Is Ms. Seal over here? Okay, please come up here. So Mr. Kadensky has filed a motion to dismiss this action based primarily on the notion that there is no specific complaint contained in your protest and also challenging the signatories as being valid under the statute. I'm surprised, given that we went through this exercise last year, that I couldn't find a specific complaint in your protest either, just the generalized statement about debris and that sort of thing. So why didn't anyone, if you really wanted to protest this, take the time to prepare a specific complaint? You know what the statute requires.
I do, and it's basically the same complaint we used every year.
Well, it didn't work last year. What made you think it was going to work this year? I mean, a specific complaint requires a date, time, place, and notice under the due process clause of the Constitution to the licensee so that they can defend it.
And last year, it was said that with the emails, it was, that's how it was verified. The protest would have been about 20 pages long if we had it.
You can focus on one or two events, though. I mean, I'm going to reserve on this motion, but it's a problem for the commission because we have to find a specific complaint, and you have an alleged one, and it's too late to bring it now. As to the signatories, I don't know, Mr. Kadensky, whether we're going to go through all of those.
Well, just briefly, if you look at the prior year's filing, the signatories were stamped in by the board received. This year, for whatever reason, they weren't, and there's no date as to when they were received. I don't have any problem that Ms. Sealover's letter is stamped in and received March 28th, But after that, the 2 pages are not stamped in. As one of the exhibits the prior year, you see every page is stamped in to indicate that they got it within the time.
Do you have knowledge of when these signatures were obtained?
Yeah, I do have one. I didn't bring it with me. It was from the post office when it was delivered.
But I mean, were you the person who obtained them?
Correct, yes.
So you were there?
Yes.
So you can testify as to when you did that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then I made it that 2 of the signatures from one year to the other, the signatures are different. And it seems to me that's caused.
Well, are those individuals present?
No, sir.
Who was it, Mr. Kadensky?
I think it was Sue Franco and
Did you bring the papers that show the differences?
they're in the one's right behind the other. One exhibit's behind the other.
Okay, so let me see. So can you show them to Ms. Sealover?
Well, the first one is Sandra, I can't, is it?
Kemsky.
Yeah, she signed that way this year, and that, it's not even close. It's number 3 the year before, and number 2 this year. And then Sue Franco was number 7 last year, and she's number 5 this year, and the signatures are not the same.
Do you have any explanation for that, Ms. Sealover?
No, sir. I was there when they signed them, and I know the penalties for perjury. I certainly would not perjure myself for some signatures.
Okay. But you can't explain why last year they signed differently?
I know when I was talking to Sandy, she was in her vehicle at the time. She was signing it. She pulled over when we were talking.
Okay.
And Sue was just standing on her front porch.
Okay, well,
And
go ahead.
that's second. And then about the Valley Park Community Association, there's no such corporation. It has been forfeited. I'd asked for records summons today. I don't know whether Ms. Sealover brought them or not, concerning that alleged association. Have you brought them with you?
Is it an association in good standing?
It's.
You have to identify yourself, sir. Sir, can you identify yourself for the record, please?
Mike Hilliard.
Okay.
I'm the Community Services Director at Harville.
Yeah.
It's identified in the Department of Planning, Community Association Director. You probably know, I work with over 27 community associations in Northeast Baltimore. Some of them are incorporated, some of them aren't. Some of them are in good standing, some of them aren't. Some of them are 501c4s, many are not. Some of them are 501c3s, many are not. And, you know, I've been at many hearings before you and have seen community representatives testify. And I don't think it's unusual that the board has accepted testimony and taken action based on testimony from people representing community associations that are neither incorporated or recognized by the State Department of Assessments as a valid business entity.
Well, you're right about that. It's never been challenged to my knowledge before, so I wasn't really confronted with that issue, but.
And my only response is, how would I know that it's a valid organization, or how does it exist, or who its members are, whether they have meetings, and so forth? There was a Valley Park Community Association, Inc., it was at 42008 Valley View, which has since been forfeited. And I would like to have an opportunity to look at the records if Ms. Sealover brought them concerning this matter. The other exhibit I have there is basically emails which Mr. Uzo will testify to, and what he's done during the past year, and about regarding soundproofing. The 311 complaints that are there, one of them are, most of those are listed are unfounded, and some of your inspectors here could verify that. A lot of the calls are made at times they're not even open, and it seems to be a call coming from one number over and over and over and over again.
Can I stop you for just a second, Mr. Kaminsky? So I think I have looked at this fairly carefully, and I think the other commissioners have too. And while as I indicated to Ms. Sealover, I have serious reservations about whether it meets our standards for a valid protest. One of the things, this being the second year in a row of this, that comes to my mind is, the old smoke and fire situation. There's obviously some problems. I don't think they're all necessarily Mr. Uzo's fault, but there's something's going on.
And he's offered to meet, and they set a plan up where they would meet at the location but nobody comes to the meetings, and they've gone around and cleaned the neighborhood up, put signs up, and so forth. Lastly, and I think this is a problem with regard to, as I see it, there's a lot of 311 complaints where they're making certain allegations that one of the commissioners may be taking bribes, and I really think that's totally out of line in this case.
I didn't see that, but I don't know who they think's doing that.
Well, I can give you the name. It says the name in there. I don't want to go, I just don't think that that's exactly the way, it should be done, especially if you're making a 311 complaint and you're putting somebody's name in there. You either got to back it up or you don't.
All right, so, but the issues that Ms. Sealover and her signatories raise are not uncommon in areas around premises like this, and particularly where there's a high concentration of other facilities in the community. That's one of the things that I've noted repeatedly before us in this Bel Air Edison community. Is that the same name of the?
No, it's this Valley part, significantly north of Bel Air.
Okay.
And candidly, Mr. Chairman, there are not a great number of BD7s located near this specific location.
So it's not, it's isolated.
You would be correct if you go south on Bel Air Road towards Urban, that there are a significant number of BD7s within a 4 or 5 block area.
Because we encounter a lot of objection to transfers of those licenses and other things because of the high concentration of them.
Yeah,
And-
this is not a high concentration issue. This is an issue that candidly the community doesn't feel that the owner is complying with what he should to operate a bar and is not complying with an MOU that's part of the license.
Is there an MOU?
There was one a couple of years ago that wasn't adhered to also by the Valley Group when they were asked for them to have meetings. I object to the statement, the community. As you know, I hate that because it's a group who are members of a community. These people, they disenfranchise the other people come here, then
Well,
who are they?
I think the board recognizes there are people
But I
on
mean,
both sides
it gets
of
in the
this.
record, and I hate it. It makes it like gives you some position that you really don't have.
Well, in your,
And I don't want to, in your letters this year that you had sent out, I mean, not you, I mean the board, indicating that you could ask the independent group to maybe meet beforehand, they said we would. Ms. Seaver said she wouldn't. Then we sent the email he did to Matt about, getting, and it wasn't. So it's not like there's not been any dialogue. They've been the request for
Hasn't been
dialogue. The question is,
successful.
do you need an independent third party? Because he said, she said, and I think like they do street cleanups and stuff like that. And I understand what the board's saying, but if you don't, they had 1 or 2 meetings right in the very beginning, and then the rest just fell apart.
So, Ms. Sealover, you're the president of the Valley Park Community Association, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how long have you been there? Been president?
Oh, probably about 8 years.
Okay, so you were here last year
Yes,
for
sir.
this one? Okay. And the complaints were the same, weren't they?
Yes, sir.
It was, I mean, to summarize from what I read from the emails, late night noise, loud music, patrons who are unruly at late hours, and debris and that sort of thing around the facility.
Right, and parking issues.
And parking issues. So I'll give you all a chance to address those things, and you can talk about them.
I asked for records to be brought. Can I take a look at what records were brought?
Sure, if they have
Did you
them.
bring your records
For,
for Valley View, Valley, your association?
I don't have the records for it. When Donna left the
No.
organiza-
Did you have any records of any meetings in the last 2 years? Just asked for any meetings that you had in the last 2 or 3 years.
Meetings of the association,
Yeah.
meetings with Mr. Uzo.
And with meetings of the association that maybe had anything to do with Mr. Uzo, did you have any meetings that,
Yes, we did. I didn't bring I don't have the records.
but we asked for you to bring them in the summons. Did you get served with a summons?
No, well, yes,
Yeah, but you didn't bring them.
no.
All right. Well, the question is, how many people belong to your association?
It's open to everyone in the community.
But do you have people who are actual
2,
members
50?
as opposed to non-members?
Whoever shows up to the meetings.
So it's not a membership thing?
Correct.
So, I mean, just then, typically, how many people show up?
10?
Okay. And that's typically 10?
Yeah, could be more.
And do you vote on issues like the protest of renewal? Do you take minutes? That's me, I should say it better now.
Yes.
Yeah, but you didn't bring those with you?
No,
Any reason why you didn't bring them with you?
no. The last 2 years, we did not have a meeting last year. The year before, we did have a meeting in 2016, which I did invite Mr. Uzo to, but he did not attend that meeting.
But last year, you're talking about this,
This is 17.
yeah, you didn't have a meeting.
No.
So when you sent a letter in behalf of the association, how was it authorized? Who authorized you to send the letter in? Or you just sent it on your own behalf?
On my own behalf.
But you, not on behalf of
The
that,
community.
but the community never met to authorize it. Would that be safe to say?
The community has never met to authorize
Okay.
just a specific liquor board hearing.
But that raises a question for me, Ms. Sealover, as well, because in our records, we have a series of, I guess they're emails between you and Mr. Uzo. So, but we don't have anything from anyone else. Are you the only one who's complaining?
No, sir. As you can tell from the 311 complaints, also the one number, I never make a mobile, I don't even have the application.
So
on
you
it
don't,
yet.
but we don't know where that number comes from?
Yes, I've told Mr. Uzo who it is, and I gave him the address of the gentleman to go and speak to over a year ago, and he's never contacted him.
Okay, let me, as I said, I'm going to reserve, so let me hear from the licensee.
All right. State your name and address.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
Sir, I've had heart surgery. Would it be all right if I sit down?
You
Just
certainly
stand
may.
a lot?
No, you certainly may, and I'm sorry. I didn't realize that. Just so you can hear, okay?
Uzo Nwasu, 1217 Roxborough Road, 21237.
Now, I mean, since the time last year, I had instructed you to try to get together with people in the community. You did have at least 1 or 2 meetings at the establishment, is that correct?
That's correct.
And when you did, how many people showed up at the meeting?
No one from the neighborhood.
All right, but did Ms. Sealover show up?
No.
And how many times did you send notices out or say you would have a meeting?
At least 2 or 3 times, and I have emails back and forth with her.
Okay.
And there's a gentleman, Mr. Robert, that's all we know. Last year we were here, the agreement was to meet with the community as best as possible. And I asked her for Robert's address. She didn't give it to me. I asked for the cell phone. She refused. I have emails showing that. And he's busy. He's always working. And she has never invited me to any community meeting.
So is this the gentleman on the 311 calls?
See, Adam, we don't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And along with that, you, during the past year, you have had signs posted, is that correct? No parking, tow-away zones?
Yes.
And so you did follow up on that from last year?
Yes.
And regarding the trash, you've increased the amount of your trash pickup?
No, we've had twice a week for over a year now.
All right,
More than 2 years now.
And
yes.
when do you generally open and when do you close?
Usually we open about 2 p.m. And we close at 1:30 a.m.
Okay. And along with that, you have security cameras and lighting, and you make it
Yes.
available to the police department?
Yes, after the last hearing, we were asked to improve the lighting and also to add additional cameras, which we did.
And you did some soundproofing also?
Yes, we did soundproofing.
And it's in that
2 years ago.
package that
Yes.
was submitted. And during this past year, other than when the 2 infractions we were before the board, I understand, had the police from the district ever come over and talk to you about anything that happened in the neighborhood and sat down with you?
In all my 5 years, we've never had any police problems, never, not once.
Okay. And along with that, you get along with the neighbors, the business neighbors. You have some things signed by them, the church on the other side of you and
Yes.
so forth.
Yes.
And along with that, you have sufficient security, and you brought some people down here with you, is that correct?
Yes, even the liquor store that's a little like not even a block up, also signed in our support.
All right, and then you brought, and I'll have one copy of a petition here. I don't know which, you want to look at this? Okay.
This is part of your,
No, this is different. These are today.
Could you
Just
give
me
it to
the-
Ms. Russell, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
And you take a moment with that.
Okay.
Can I interrupt, Mr. Kninsky? I have a question. Okay. So, Mr. Uzo, the last 2 times you've been before the board, in 17 and 18, it's been over the hours, prohibited hours, running beyond your time. And in looking at the complaints, a lot of them have to do with those early morning hours and noise. Are you telling the board there's no problem?
No. It was the challenge was with people ordering food just before we closed, and we've stopped that. If you don't get your food by 1 a.m., that's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Because you can imagine with any bar at 1:30 in the morning, if you're a neighbor, it could be a problem.
Yes, yes.
If your patrons have had too much to drink and are allowed going back to their cars or wherever they are. So do you and your security have any plan for how to try to cope with that?
Yeah, I hired an additional security guard that works, which I informed her also, that works towards the house and makes sure that everybody leaves, gets in their car and leaves. And for us inside, if you don't order your food by 1 a.m., sorry. And we've been enforcing that because, you know, this is a source of livelihood for all of us, and you don't really play with stuff like that. I understand the seriousness of the situation, and, you know, I've done everything humanly possible to, you know, cooperate with the neighborhood, because I do understand that it's a residential area, and
Well, would you, if there would be, and I'm just throwing it out there, now that you have Matt and would you be willing to set other meetings now where you have a third party between you and Ms. Sealover's group? Or would you
Absolutely.
agree? And you don't have to have it at your location. I mean, if people feel intimidated coming in, you could pick another place to have it. And then that way there's some discourse between you and let's call it the mediator or whatever it is and so forth. But you do trash pickups, you collections?
yes,
and
yes.
even though it's
myself,
not yours?
Myself. I try to use the number, the Baltimore Mediation Center. I contacted them, and they reached out to me about 2 weeks after. They don't really give you a reason why they couldn't set something up. They give you a bunch of reasons, and then.
So they were unable to help you?
Well, then she came and sent me an email. Ms. Sealover sent me an email that pretty much, I don't know, they have a copy of it? That pretty much said.
It's in your
weren't
package, yeah.
interested. Okay. Okay, I hear what you're saying. And Mr. Cadenzi is correct. We now have a community liaison person who may be able to assist in the future. But let me hear from Mr. Hilliard and Ms. Sealover if they have other things.
May I comment on the petition first?
Yes.
I reviewed B. So it says, with the undersigned neighbors, residents, customers, and property owners in the immediate vicinity of 4919 Bel Air Road. I only recognize maybe 2 or 3 addresses that are within the immediate vicinity. Some are within a mile to 2 miles away, and one actually lists an address in Frostburg, Maryland.
Would you give that to Ms. Russell, please? I think, as you know, we've never really defined immediate vicinity. So.
Get it on the record, that's all.
But certainly there's some common sense understanding of it. I don't think Frostburg is in the immediate vicinity, but whether patrons from a mile or 2 away are in it, I'm not 100% certain.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Is there anything else you wanted to comment about?
Would you want to present our side?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're 50-some, I guess you're familiar with the 311 complaints on the bar. Dinsky would probably, as he pointed out in his original proffer, that most of them were unfounded. If you look at most of them, you will find the liquor board where the housing inspector did not respond to the following morning. Most of the complaints, as you noted yourself, were made between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. The other thing is the MOU requires that the licensee shall secure parking arrangement with parties along Bel Air roads for parking for 10 to 15 parking spots. And to the best of my knowledge, that has never been done.
When was the MOU entered into?
3 years ago.
And apparently it's fallen into disuse, right?
Well, it did, and there are certain provisions in the MOU that require, remedial work if there's a complaint to get the parties together. And I think that's what they have here. There's, as Luke would say, is a failure to communicate here. And
but I mean, would the MOU be a reasonable starting point for continued communication?
I don't disagree.
I don't know. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mr. Hilliard.
That's it.
Yeah, because I mean, it says any breach of matter unresolved following a conference with the liquor board. Well, that's never happened on there. And I don't want to go through all these 311s because you know the ones that I saw in there. And I did talk with members of your inspection division about the times other than the 2 after hours, indicating they've been out there on numerous occasions and the complaints were unfounded. And I don't know whether it's that one person that keeps calling just to make a complaint or otherwise.
Of
and,
the 44 311 calls that we have, do you know how many were made by that one number?
13 or 14, I think, and they were actually being made, some of them were made for another person. I think it was the person next to you that had a generator or something. Was that the one you were complaining about, or someone's complaining about a generator? They were complaining about somebody had a generator and so forth. So I marked in the ones that I have that the times and dates, and the one where they claims that one of the inspectors, the commissioners was doing something. I don't think that's necessary to get into that at this point.
But when this MOU was entered into 3 years ago, was it accepted as a condition on the license?
I don't think so. Not at that point. There was
Best of my knowledge, yes.
See, and I don't have a transcript.
not
right
on
here,
there
so-
if you look. You know what?
Having a hard time.
We have to slow down so Bryson can get these.
I used to like him too.
Let me stop here and ask if the commissioners have some questions.
When there's a trash, I'm asking, when there's a trash complaint and you file the complaint in, did anyone check the records to see whether or not a violation notice was ever issued to the?
Yes.
Do you have copies of that? Did anyone issue a violation notice? And if so, do you have a copy of that notice?
So when these were pulled for me by Councilman Scott, they were pulled in March, Mr. Jones. And I think there are 2 code violations in here. So if I were to go online and try to pull the violation notice at this time, if they've been closed, they would no longer be in the system.
No, they're in the
Probably none in the system.
They stay in the system.
But I mean, the public may not have access to them off the housing's website.
I'm just curious as to whether or not it was a trash and debris type complaint or was a structural.
Well, as you know, the building is not owned by my client. There are other tenants there. They try to keep theirs going, but other people throw trash, as we went through before. They had pictures of them last time. People coming by, they emptied, then even they throw their own trash in there, and then the people who own the building get a violation notice.
Keep in mind, when they issue the violation notice, they take a picture, so to verify what they saw, so you can also get a copy of the picture also.
Yeah.
So if you don't have anything, I'm just curious as to one that is attached to the violation notice. Okay, all right, thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Jones? Commissioner?
And Mr. Uzo, so the record and the testimony suggests that there are obviously a number of issues, so I want to ask you about them. Parking. Mr. Hilliard and Ms. Seelover mentioned that there was a requirement for you to park in an MOU or provide parking outside of that particular, I guess, residential corridor. Has it been done?
Yes.
Okay. How has it been done?
We use the Carl Cena Motors. We use his parking, and also Mr. Kennedy, who also signed on our behalf.
Okay. Ms. Seelover, you had a reaction to that.
Yeah, I do. First off, Cinna Motors parks the cars when they close the lot. We discussed this at the last liquor board hearing. When they close the lot for the night, they park cars in front of it so no one can get on
Sure.
on a used car lot. Yeah. And also, the Mr. Kennedy's lot, and I have photos showing you that, is right here. And it is a dirt lot. And there is no signage at all anywhere on Bel Air Road, Valley View, or anywhere saying that there is parking for Goodfellas.
So,
None at all. There is a sign, yes, there is a sign, this is it. It's either laying on the ground or it's turned and it's faced the, back of their driveway about they will tow cars on Valley View. And you can't tow cars on Valley View, it's a public street.
Knowing the sensitivity of parking, do you have a contract or lease showing that you have the authorization, authority to park anywhere up there? You know how-
Just-
this is part of the MOU, you know how important this is to your case, so do you have anything in writing?
We had a letter from Cena, yes.
Do you have it with you?
It's in the file.
It's in the file, yeah. It's
From
been
before.
like 3 years old.
It's the same letter that we had submitted before. It hasn't changed.
Did they have a time limit on that letter?
No.
No time limit?
okay, so, that's one issue. Parking in front of a fire hydrant, that ring a bell?
Yes,
Did your patrons do that?
it's happened.
It's happened. And so I assume now that you will address
Oh,
that?
yes, the security stands right there and he directs them. And every night when I come, me and him fight a lot. Like, no, they have to move right now.
So, also, live music. But clearly they're hearing something, right? Is it a jukebox? Is it, what is it? Do they have jukebox?
It's music videos, that's what it is.
Music
Or
videos.
maybe customers driving by. Because several times, I've heard people drive down Valley View with their music pumping, yes.
All right. So I return to the fact, Ms. Seeler, let me ask you this. Your email suggests that you personally, as the head of the organization, have no interest, along with other members, except for one, from what I gathered, has an interest in meeting with Mr. Uzo. Can you share why you aren't interested in sitting?
We're not interested because we've had issues with the bar for a very long time, and while Mr. Uzo was the manager of the bar in 2014, he was well aware of these issues. The community did meet at the bar with Mr. Nader, the then owner, and Mr. Uzo did not partake in but he was well aware of the issues. He bought the bar knowing the issues of the same things that we are here before you discussing yet again. And the neighborhood feels that, how many times can we talk about the same issue over and over and over and meet when nothing ever changes?
But you haven't sat down with him in how long? I mean, the organization has.
We've sent emails, we've talked in person, we've talked on the phone, we've had a liquor board hearing, and yet nothing has changed.
So, just.
And we also, I arranged for Mr. Uzo, his brother, and Mike and I to sit down in October 2015 to basically mediate and see if we could work through the problems. And yes, I hear a lot of, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and it's good for a week or two, and then we go back to the same issues we're dealing with.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, Mr. Greenfield, these are the same issues we were dealing with in 2015, and candidly, the licensee gave the same responses that he would address them, and he doesn't. So, I mean, I understand the board's concern, and I also, and candidly, I did not agree with the Community Law Center's position on mediation. I think that could be.
You mean our legislation that we tried?
Could be a very effective.
We thought so too.
But as I read the legislation, the mediation was to achieve an MOU and a community agreement. The problem becomes, once you reach the point, the MOU's in the license, and the licensee still won't comply with it, is mediation effective, and then how does the board or anybody, because community associations certainly don't have the capacity.
Sure. Our concept was going to be that if there was a valid agreement reached, and if it was agreed that it would be a part of the license, that when it was violated, we could violate, and then we could have a violation hearing, at which point we could revoke, suspend, fine, and do whatever.
In my understanding of the transfer of this license, and I was at the hearing, to this gentleman, that was what happened. The MOU was incorporated, we were told the MOU was incorporated in the license. So, that's where, Your Honor, that's where I'm coming from.
I hear you.
And the only thing that I'm saying is that when they do an agreement, it's not like Charles Street, one way. It's got to be a two-way deal. And when you have in the agreement that the community, before they do any complaints, they should notify the licensee and the owner to resolve it. And that doesn't happen. And you have somebody who basically, and I'm not, look, maybe Ms. Seeler is the only person that wants to, take the gauntlet there for 8 years, and they have 8 or 10 people show up. And the other part about the breach of the thing is that before any unresolved issues following a conference with the liquor, we've never had it. We've never had a conference. That's part of the agreement they signed.
Do we have any record, Mr. Page, of the MOU?
Mr. Russell is checking the file now, Mr. Chairman.
Let me just think out loud for a second here, okay? So it's there, but do we indicate when it's been agreed that it will be part of the license?
I haven't found that yet, still searching.
Okay. So, as I said, let me think out loud for a minute. As I indicated to Ms. Seelover at the beginning, I do have some legal concerns if this case were to go on appeal, that Mr. Kadensky's motion might get him where he wants to go, because I don't see in this record the kind of specific complaint that's contemplated by the statute that provides due process to the licensee. I don't know whether he'd prevail on his complaints about the signatories to the protest. But all that's legally interesting. But what we do have here in this community is a problem that's been going on now for at least 3 years with Mr. Uzo and with Ms. Sealover's group, and a possible movement toward a solution to me seems to be to ask our community liaison person to facilitate a neutral setting and place for a discussion that might lead to refinements on the existing MOU, but which would also lead to restrictions on the license that we could impose violations on if they weren't adhered to, and give us some teeth outside of a protest of renewal hearing, where the only option that the board has is revoke or renew. So that's just me thinking out loud. I don't know how the other commissioners feel.
Also, I tend to agree with you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, this was really part of the reason we had the bill in for the last 2 years to address this issue, because, Ms. Sealover, the only real choice we have here is to revoke or renew. I mean, it's really, that's all we have. And my struggle, thinking out loud, is that there hasn't been, I've seen instances in the emails that suggest that Mr. Uzo has, I agree with the chairman that there's smoke, where there's smoke, there's fire. I think there's something going on here, but I also think that there is a huge disconnect between the community and the licensee. And I think both are responsible, and I think until we address that disconnect, and there is some communication, I'm not sure that it rises to the level of revoking a license. That's my dilemma. Doesn't mean we can't revoke the license if there is a discussion and there's another violation, because as Mr. Uzo and everyone certainly knows, he's got a history, and it's not a good one. So just because we may not revoke here doesn't mean we can't revoke later. But what I'm struggling with is he seems to have made in the emails overtures to meet, and from what I gather, it has been rejected. And to me, that's a problem, because you had referenced that you met a couple years ago. Well, he's had issues in the last couple years within the last couple years that should have been addressed by sitting down and trying to hammer this out. And look, liquor agency staff's here to help and support and try and get to a place where there is a fair balance. So, I think the two sides need to sit down. I don't think this ends the road.
I truly believe that there is a problem between the community and this establishment. I think if that problem does exist, then more people should be involved in this. And I also believe that when you set up guidelines, and the guidelines that we set up with the MOU, that somewhat help us to see a better picture of what's going on, because if he violates, then there's a mechanism in place to identify that violation in writing, draw him in, and both sides have some type of dialogue. And if that dialogue doesn't resolve the issue, then you can bring him before us. And these type of interaction help us to make a better decision when it comes to a time like this. I'm looking at what I have before me, and I really wouldn't feel comfortable taking someone's license away from him, just what I have before me. Do he deserve to have the license taken? I don't know, because the picture hasn't been given to me yet. So at this point, I can't take the license.
Well, let me just indicate also for the record, that in the last year or two, the licensee's been before the board and had been fined somewhere under $2,000. That's very different from coming here in violation of an agreement where we suspend his license for some period of time. And that's an authority we would have if we go down the road that I'm proposing. So
The community is more than willing to comply with your suggestion.
So my vote would be to renew at this point with the understanding that we would ask our community liaison to facilitate negotiations. The starting point would be the MOU from 2015. Each side would have an opportunity to suggest changes to it that bring it to date and make it reasonable and suited to the problems that now exist rather than the ones that existed 3 years ago, if there's any difference. Address these issues like parking, where obviously the community doesn't believe that you really do have these arrangements, and maybe you can work that out so that you can satisfy them and also continue to operate. We would like that to be successful, and we don't want to violate you. Both you and Ms. Sealover and Mr. Hilliard, I should say more than both, all three of you sound sincere and honest. It'd be difficult to make a credibility determination, but you're speaking at cross purposes, so somebody's not entirely correct. So that's, my decision is I vote to renew with the condition that the sides agree to attempt to negotiate a new MOU that would become a restriction on the license to the extent that it's enforceable.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask you a question on that? Assuming the parties do meet and assuming they do come to a new MOU, do they have to come back before, maybe it's for Mr. Ackers, do they have to come back before the board to have that new updated MOU attached
Well,
to the
I think
license?
if they make it if they put it into the agreement and this parties sign off on it, yeah.
Sworn in.
I don't know, you have to be sworn, I mean, you're an officer of the court, aren't you?
Yes, I understand.
We're just asking for what your view is of the law.
The law requires, there's two sections of the law. First is the case law, which requires that if you're going to impose a condition on the license, this is Liquor License Board of Commissioners versus Fellows Point Cafe, that it has to be voluntary and consensual. It has to be done before the board. That's why the board can ask those questions. There's also another piece of the law which allows for MOUs to be a part of the license on transfer or renewal if they're Class B establishments. So this would fall under that. However, the board could, just for the record, bring the parties back before and have a hearing just to incorporate that license into the MOU, make sure it's voluntary, consensual.
So if we were to say that we want to set it back in within 90 days, would that be a reasonable time?
I think so.
Yes.
Okay.
And one thing, just as a suggestion to the board can hold its decision sub curia in terms of the protest of renewal, and then make that determination once parties have come back with a memorandum of understanding.
Does the license continue then?
The license would continue. The licensee would have to consent, and all parties would have to consent to that continuance, because essentially we're continuing the protest of renewal before the board makes its decision.
Mr. Chair, the chief inspector just reminded me we're coming up on summertime, so he expressed concern, and I agree with it, that 90 days might be a little bit too tight because of vacations and everything else.
Okay.
And you're holding the license hostage at this point for that. I mean, he's agreeing to meet and do that. I don't want to be in a situation where there's 12 things and we agree to 11, and then the one we can't agree to, and they say, well, all right, you're not going to go ahead. I think in good faith, he wants to go ahead and do it and meet.
120 days? And obviously, if there's close to an agreement and they come back here, we're going to try to work something out in front of the board. So we're not unreasonable. So I'd ask whether you'd be willing to agree to that.
Yes, you're willing to agree to that, yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll hold, if Mr. Jones and Mr. Greenfield agree with me, we'll hold the renewal sub curia for a period of 120 days with the hope and understanding that there will be a facilitated negotiation resulting in a amended MOU that can be made a part of the license, and then we can put this to rest for good.
And the board will keep an open mind as to if it's a snag on a little.
I always try to have an open mind, Mr. Kudensky. Even at my advanced age. So is everyone agreed, commissioners?
I agree.
I agree to hold this case sub curia for 120 days and set it back in. I would, Mr. Uzo, I just remind you, not that it needs reminding, but I wouldn't, or both sides, I should say, I wouldn't wait 120 days. Obviously, I'd try to move this quicker, and I would also just, things can happen, violations can happen between now and 120 days. So I'd encourage you, I'd encourage communication right away and start, making sure you're doing whatever you can.
Should they do that through Matt?
Yes.
I call
Yes.
my first thing because I'm the one.
Yeah, and we can make that sure. The other thing I want to remind the protesters is that there is still pending before the board a motion to dismiss, and I've indicated to you my concerns about it. I'm reserving on that as well. So when you come back in 120 days, I hope that you're able to work things out.
Let me just also add, if there is a violation, as Mr. Kadensky well knows, the choice isn't renew or revoke. It's revoke, suspend. Frankly, it could be even worse to some degree. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Exhibits for the record. Board Exhibit 1, petition of protest of renewal. Board Exhibit 2, signatures of protests. Board Exhibit 3, SSTAT printout. Board Exhibit 4, emails. Board Exhibit 5, emails. Board Exhibit 6, board inspection reports. And Board Exhibit 7, petition of support. Licensee Exhibit 1, petition of support. Thank you.
May I make the motion an exhibit as well, so that it's in the record?
Sure. Like to go back on the record?
We're still on.
Okay. Board Exhibit 8 will be motion of dismiss. Thank you.
Mr. Page, is that our docket?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. The board is in recess until Thursday, May the 24th, 2018, at 10 a.m.